Before we get started, I want you to navigate to that chat window and I want you to type a number 1 if your biggest challenge right now is driving new sales, closing new job orders. If your biggest challenge right now is finding candidates and applicants, I want you to type a number 2. So friends, you only have 2 options. There's absolutely no reason to not participate right now. If it is the biggest challenge for your business right now to drive clients, you're going to type a number 1. And if your biggest challenge is candidates, getting applicants and submittals, you're going to type a 2. So you have a bunch of numbers funneling through, but it looks like an overwhelming majority of you are joining today. Brandy said 1 and 2. Brandy, it wasn't an and comment, it was an or comment, but we're going to allow it. We're going to allow 1 and 2 for your sake specifically. Friends, you're here today for this session to learn how to improve your sales process. And for a lot of you, you're in the right spot, right? 2023 is a completely different animal. When we think about where we were this time last year, it was all candidates. We have more orders than we know what to do with, but we can't find the right talent. That shifted, right? That has absolutely shifted. And as I have had the opportunity to speak with, it's got to be close to 100 different companies in the last 2 to 3 months. I'm very fortunate in having the opportunity to travel and represent Haley Marketing coast to coast at different conferences this year. One of the leading things that I hear, as is true with this chat window right now, is staffing companies across the country cannot find and cannot close job orders. Well, friends, the first thing, there is strength in numbers. You're not alone. There are others that are feeling the exact same way. You're in the right spot with Smart Ideas Summit 3. And before we get started, and maybe if somebody from Team Haley is hanging out, David, if that's you or somebody else, if you could put this link in the chat so maybe people can click it as well. We're going to talk about some ways to level up your sales efforts. And for sake of time, having about 15, 20 minutes to leave time for Q&A, I'm going to cover 4. And then I'm going to talk about some other sessions that are going to give you some more tips. But if you want all of them, you can go to haleymarketing.com/level up. You could download the ebook that gives you all of the ideas. Again, I'm only going to cover about 4 or 5 for sake of time, but there are tons of sessions throughout the day that are going to cover a lot of others. And as a disclaimer, y'all know where the chat window is now. So if you have questions for my presentation, this conversation, you have questions for other presenters as we navigate throughout the day, use that chat window. Make sure your voice is heard and make sure you're getting your questions answered as we have this conversation throughout the day. Friends, real quick disclaimer, let's take it one strategy at a time. Right? Leveling up takes time, but it only takes 1 step to get started. If you've never ran a marathon, I would not encourage you this afternoon to go out and try to run 26.2. But I might encourage you to walk down the block, walk around the block, right? Take it 1 strategy at a time as we think about systematically leveling up our sales efforts. Let's get started. Number 1, how do we drive more sales? Well, we level up our positioning. What makes you unique? Friends, I got to be honest, and I'm coming in a little fired up, so hopefully y'all are with me at 10 o'clock on the East Coast. Sorry if you're on the West Coast and you're just getting started with Smart Ideas Summit 3 and your morning cup of coffee. We as an industry have a funny way of not really talking about what makes us unique. You know, I've had countless conversations in the last month. Heck, I had one the other day where a client said, and it hurts me to even say this, we were talking about the messaging on their website, their positioning. We were talking about actually their website as a whole. And they said, let me send you a link. I clicked it up and they said, you see this one, Brad? I want ours to look exactly like this. Friends, that is not unique at all. If we are not selling our uniques, if we're not selling our differentiators, if we're not selling, we're going to talk about positioning very, very soon. Why would anybody want to work with you instead of your local competitor? Why would anybody think to work with you if there is nothing unique about you? You're just a commodity. We need to showcase our uniques. Laura, this is a Shure SM7B as a quick side note, because I saw your question. It caught my attention. That's the microphone we use for our podcast over here and what a lot of podcasters are going to use over here at Haley. Quick sidebar. Where would I find you in the grocery store? Friends, I want you to go on an adventure with me. If you're driving, you're not going to do this, but if you're sitting at your desk, I want you to close your eyes for a second. And I want you to drive to the grocery store. So for me, I'm going to get my car in the driveway. I backed in yesterday, so I'm going to pull out, make a left, make a right, and then I'm going to go 3 streets down, and on my left is going to be Tops Friendly Markets. Okay. Y'all got to the grocery store, right? So for me, I got lucky. I found a front row parking spot. Not a big deal, but it's kind of a big deal. From there, I want you all to get out of your cars and find me the Oreos. So think about it. Take your time. You got out of the car. Where are you going to go? For me, I walk out of my car. I go through the door. I go right through the self-checkout because that's what Tops is doing now, which I love. Then you're going to make a left. You're going to go down about 3 aisles and you have the ginormous cookie aisle, in which halfway down you have an even bigger rack of strictly Oreos. Friends, that's product positioning. That is finding the Oreos in the grocery store. Where would your clients find you in the grocery store? Do they know where to find you? Or is your positioning so muddy that they don't know if they could find you in the produce, frozen goods, by the cookies? If we don't have crystal clear positioning, if we don't know where we reside in the grocery store, and more importantly, if our prospects don't know where we reside in the grocery store, how are they going to find us? If they don't know the value that we can bring to their organizations, if they don't know the value that we can bring their day-to-day, why would they work with us instead of your local competition? So friends, let's go on another adventure. We're standing at the cookie aisle. I'm looking at a ginormous box of Halloween Oreos. From there, where else might we find the Oreo brand? Well, they're also in the ice cream section, right? My favorite ice cream. You got the 2 Oreos, the ice cream right in the middle. Got that like cookie sandwich kind of thing going on. My absolute favorite. Ivanica, if I said that correctly, they're also going to be at the checkout, right? Great. So that's more product positioning. Friends, for you who might have different verticals, you service different industries. Maybe you place welders and you place nurses, right? 2 drastic extremes. We need to make sure that that positioning and that, we're going to get to messaging in a second, is so clear that your prospects still know exactly where to find you. Because again, if they don't know where you reside, they don't know how to find you in the first place, well, we're not going to drive that business. So if I could challenge you today to maybe get started with one thing, let's think about where I would find you in the grocery store. Where would your clients find you? What makes you unique? And what value, most importantly, do you bring to your prospects and your clients? Let's level up our messaging. Let's use that chat window one more time. Any Simon Sinek fans on Smart Ideas Summit 3 today? I'm going to use that great opportunity to take a quick sip of water. As you're thinking about it, we have Irene saying that she loves Simon Sinek. We have some others doing hearts and thumbs up and adding reactions. If you're unfamiliar with Simon Sinek, he has a book and a TED Talk called Start With Why that I think will fundamentally change the way that you look at the way you do business and the way that you really roll out your messaging. So after Smart Ideas Summit 3, if you aren't familiar with Simon Sinek, I'm going to encourage you to look up Simon Sinek TED Talk. Start With Why. It's an even better book if you want to read the full book. For those of you that don't want to read, watch the 15-minute TED Talk. It's a lot easier. Friends, he has what he calls the golden circle. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. The challenge, friends, in staffing and recruiting, we are on an endless mission to sell what we do. And at the end of the day, there are thousands of other people exactly like you who also sell what you do. So why would I, the prospect, think to work with you instead of somebody else? If all we're doing is racing for what, right? People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. They buy into that greater purpose. They buy into that greater value. They buy into positioning and the uniques that you provide. But most importantly, they buy into what you can do for them, right? What's in it for me, the prospect? So when we think about our messaging, when we think about how we're conveying the things that we do as staffing and recruiting firm owners, or as sales reps, or anybody on this call who might be selling, we need to think that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And at the end of the day, your messaging needs to speak on those whys. Because if we're not speaking on why and we're not speaking to emotion, well, then we are just more noise in the social media landscape. We're just more noise in somebody's news feed. We're just more noise in somebody's email. We're not even really talking about marketing tactics here. We're talking about the overall methodology of the messaging. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. They buy into that greater purpose. So again, that's a lesson borrowed from Simon Sinek. If you aren't familiar with his TED Talk, I would encourage you to take the 15 minutes to watch that after Smart Ideas Summit 3. Let's talk about leveling up your sales process. And friends, this is going to come as quite a bit of a shock to, well, maybe none of you. This is what we call the AIDA model in marketing. And David said he loves models. Well, I made sure I put one in here for you. The AIDA model: awareness, interest, desire, and action. Friends, this is advertising. This is marketing 101. Awareness, interest, desire, action. Let's think for a second. I need a new polo. Okay. There are thousands of companies who could sell me a new polo. Maybe I go tried and true and I buy a Ralph Lauren. Maybe I'm on a budget and I go to Target. Great products, but there are a wide range of individuals who could sell me a polo. How are you going to captivate my awareness to tell me, to captivate me, to show me that I need your polo? How are you going to spark my awareness, spark that attention? From there, how are you going to captivate my interest? What are you going to do to pique my interest in saying, you know what? I do need to spend $85 for this polo instead of $8 at Target. What's going to captivate my interest there to make a buying decision? From there, where do I then get the desire to say, you know what? I can see myself in that polo, so much so that I'm going to take action and buy it. Friends, the same is true for your staffing and recruiting firm. If we're not first generating awareness, moving to interest, captivating desire, and then ultimately leading somebody to take action, then we have nothing. But the challenge here, as I have the opportunity, again, I'm a very fortunate individual to go out and meet with hundreds of owners, have the opportunity to chat with, on a consistent basis throughout the week, dozens of individuals in our great industry. The challenge that I consistently see day after day after day is we automatically start at this action level. We want people to take action before they even know who we are, before they have awareness of our brand, before they have any interest in working with us, before they have any desire in working with us. Friends, we're trying to start a relationship. We're trying to get people to take action before they even know our first name. We cannot close business operating like this. But day after day, time after time, this is the world I see us living in. Well, Brad, we need orders. I need people to take action, right? I need orders because business is struggling. Let's talk candidates for a second. Brad, I have more orders than I know what to do with. I need people to apply, or what am I going to do? I get it. But what happens when you're at a mall or you're at some sort of public venue and someone walks up to you to try to get you to buy something unsolicited, right? You're at a craft show, you're at some sort of event, someone walks up and says, hey, check this out. You walk away, you get scared. You say, I don't want to do business with you. I don't even know you, right? So friends, if there's anything that I can stress today, when we think about our sales process, when we think about what it is that we're doing to drive orders, we cannot start with demanding action. We as humans don't do this offline. We don't do this outside of business. You wouldn't do this at a networking event. We start at the top. But because we get desperate, this is where we tend to start. So instead, we need to think through, what can we do from a marketing standpoint to raise awareness? How can we use things like pay-per-click advertising? You're going to hear about search engine optimization. You're going to hear so many great marketing tactics throughout the day that generate awareness. What can we do to drive interest in our brand? What can we do to make us likable so that people want to work with us, so that they're proud to work with us? How can we drive that forward so that they have the desire to work with us? Listen, I have to sign a contract. I have to give you a job order because I can't fathom the thought of having anybody else try to work on this. And then ultimately, how do we get them to take action? How do they close that deal? How do we get them to drive that deal forward? Friends, I want to talk about reputation management. And this is a topic that is becoming more and more passionate to me. because of some data that I recently found on my way to speak at the Colorado Staffing Association. So I was doing some research, as I tend to do when I'm flying to a conference. I actually tend, and maybe there's some of you in the chat who feel the same way. I get my best work done when I'm on a plane. Maybe it's just because there's absolutely zero, and I mean zero distraction. But we need to level up our reputation. And when we think about how we can close more business, well, friends, our online reviews are telling that story faster than we can. So what story are your reviews telling? 99.9% of customers are going to read reviews when shopping online. Now, this is consumer goods. This is staffing services. This is just a survey from Search Engine Journal that I can share with anybody who might want it. But 99.9% of customers are going to read reviews when shopping online. This is the interesting part, friends. 96% of customers look for negative reviews specifically. Friends, your customers, your prospects are looking at your online reviews not to validate their beliefs. They're going to discredit you. They're going to find those one or two reviews who say you can't provide the service that you can. They're looking for those candidates who have you frustrated. They are going to discredit you. We as humans, we believe you. We trust you. We think you have the greatest product in the world. But to relate it back to a polo, right? I'm going for the one review that says, listen, the seam popped out of the shoulder and now I can't wear that shirt anymore. It's not worth the $80 or it's not worth the $8, whatever. We're going as consumers to discredit brands when we look at reviews. What story are your reviews telling? Friends, 3.3 stars out of 5 is the lowest a customer will consider. So if you go to Google and you look up your staffing firm right now, I am here today to sort of shock you and say, listen, if you're below a 3.3, your competitors are driving business away from you. They are stealing your business if they are higher. 3.3 out of 5 stars is the lowest a customer will consider before they say, listen, I don't want to trust this brand. 43% of customers expect the business to have over 100 reviews. Again, we want strength in numbers. 100 reviews is great. What's great about that is if you have one or two negatives, well, then you have 98 individuals who are singing your praises, who are saying, listen, don't listen to those two people. Things happen, mistakes happen. Trust us. So we need to have over 100 reviews and we need to have at least a 3.3. I want to talk about a book that I absolutely love called Hug Your Haters by Jay Baer. We talked about Simon Sinek. We're going to talk about Jay Baer for a second. He has the rule of twos, which is a great tip when we think about online reputation. I'm going to share it with you real quick and you can get more insight in the book if you want it. If you are to receive a negative online review, you respond once. Brad, I'm sorry you had a negative experience with our organization. We strive to provide world-class service. It seems like we fell a little short. If you could give me a call at the office, I'd love to chat, figure out how we can do better, how we can improve. If they respond a second time, I don't want to talk to you, blah, 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 curse words, whatever it might be, we're going to respond a second time. Brad, I understand that we fell short of the mark. Again, we strive to provide world-class service, and I apologize for falling short of the mark. You can shoot me an email. You can give me a call. You can stop by the office. I'm happy to talk about this. If they respond a third time, we're going to let it go. We did everything we can to mitigate the situation, to put our best foot forward. I think it was Warren Buffett who said something along the lines of it takes 20 years to build an online reputation and 20 minutes to ruin it. Friends, the last thing we want to do is get into a shouting match with a candidate on Facebook. We do not need that. But you'll see what I did in that exercise too, in responding, is I never want public feedback. I never want to say, hey, Brad, tell us what we did wrong. And have somebody air all of that on Google, on Facebook, wherever it might be. We want that offline, right? So, hey, give me a call, shoot me an email, drive it offline. Again, friends, if we're thinking about online reputation, we're thinking about driving sales. Your online reputation is a sales rep. Your online reputation should be a team member. Strengthening your online reputation should be just as much of a conscious effort as strengthening the individuals that are working for you day after day. Because if somebody is Googling your organization at 9 o'clock at night, they are making their decision about you without your input. So we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure we have a strong online reputation that is true representation of our brand. All right, I'm coming up on time here, so I want to talk about leveling up your sales tools quickly. When we think about what's in your sales toolbox, asynchronous selling. How can you sell to multiple prospects at the same time? Are you doing things like webinars, podcasts, video? Are you typing an email that you can send multiple times? Or are you blogging about a topic and then distributing it multiple times? How can you leverage asynchronous selling so that your sales reps aren't typing the same email day after day after day and doing those same mundane tasks? Sell sheets and print assets. I don't know if my podcast co-host, Matt Lozar, is on right now, but I can't stop talking about sell sheets on the show. Friends, if you don't have strong one sheets that reduce friction in the sales process, you are dropping the ball. And you're going to say, Brad, well, sell sheets are outdated. We don't use print assets anymore. Okay, well, then let's send them to people. We should have well-designed, polished assets so that if you are met at any stage of the sales process with friction, we have a tool that talks about that friction. Let's talk about landing pages. Are we driving the right people to the right page at the right time where they can convert, where they can download content, where they can download an ebook, where they can give us their name and email so that your team can follow up? Most importantly, absolutely most importantly, in your sales toolbox, you have a database. Are you using it effectively, or is it just sitting there collecting dust? Friends, your database is everything. If you are not effectively using that database, you need to start thinking through how you can segment that database into individuals who are currently working with you, who are prospects that have never worked with you, and individuals who have worked with you in the past. And all of those individuals should be receiving different messages at the right time to drive them on back home. We had a question, what are sell sheets? And we had, David actually responded. A sell sheet is a one-page flyer that can be about a specific service you offer, a problem you solve, or a case study. Perfectly answered. Friends, more sales tools for you. We have multiple sessions on AI throughout the day. You're going to learn about digital marketing from Brad, Prudence, and Stephanie. You're going to learn about how to drive and build a website that works from David and Brad. You're going to hear about marketing automation from Jeff. All of these things are going to work together to drive sales. Friends, one last time, we can't approach 2023 as the same as 2022 and expect better results. We are simply playing a different game. And when we think about selling staffing services, it is becoming increasingly difficult. Individuals are becoming increasingly difficult to reach. It's harder to get messaging in front of them. It's harder to sell staffing services, plain and simple. The first exercise we had here where all of the ones were firing through the chat. Y'all know it's hard to close business right now. But if we look at leveling up our collective sales efforts, well, then maybe we can close some more business in Q4. And I'm not here today to say, listen, the way you did it in the past is wrong, right? It got you to where you are today. But my hope is that you can leave from this session with just maybe one idea to expand on what you're already doing to drive those leads for your team. And hey, while I got you, because I'm the guy with the microphone, if you don't subscribe to Insights on the Secrets of Staffing Success podcast network, well, hey, I would encourage you to check it out. We have over 125 episodes where Matt Lozar, our director of recruitment marketing, and I talk about what's working in digital marketing and recruitment marketing every other week. We just dropped the show last Friday. You can check out Insights by looking up the Secrets of Staffing Success on your preferred podcast player. David, I know we saw Mark kind of pop in here randomly. He might be getting teed up. I think we have maybe a couple of minutes, though, if any questions come in. Otherwise, floor is yours.
Yeah, we do. If you have questions, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A or into the chat. But Brad, one of the things that you hit over in the messaging, and I'd love us to follow up on, is you're talking about the Simon Sinek. You're talking about people understanding their why. Yeah. But let's take that down a level. So you have the why to why your company exists, but right now it's 2023. It's harder to sell. What's the why in staffing? What's the why when you're selling to that HR manager, that hiring manager? That's not the same why they had a couple of years ago, which was, can you just find me a person? And if so, that's the why I need, but that's not today's why. What do you see as the why?
It's going to vary, right? But I think the biggest challenge, and I don't want to dance around the question, David, because it is a good question, but it varies organization to organization. And friends, one of the biggest challenges that I ran into just recently, we don't know who we're selling to, right? So we're reaching out to a prospect at David's production facility, we're reaching out to a prospect and we're talking about a pain point that we don't even know he has. So if we don't know who we're calling on, if we don't know who we're selling to, well, then we'll never have the right why in the first place. So we need to first understand, okay, who is our target? Who are we reaching out to? And then from there, what are they struggling with? If it's procurement and it's just a monetary financial decision, okay, well, then let's talk about that. If it's a production manager or a plant manager, okay, well, what's going on in their facility right now? I just had a great call with a client, who's working in the automotive space. Might be some automotive strikes coming up. Well, that sounds like the perfect time to me, at least, to work with some temps, because if you got to let people go, things aren't working, the supply chain might be impacted by that. Temps sound like a great solution there. So we need to first know who we're calling on, who the target is, and then we can figure out their why. David, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. You have to look at the problems. And I actually think the best place to start is to talk to your recruiters and ask them, tell me what their current clients are complaining about. Not because Joe didn't show up for work, but what's going on in their business? Why is the manufacturing company struggling, or why is it doing well? Are they having, you mentioned supply chain issues? Are they having labor cost issues? Are they having raw material cost issues? If I'm doing an IT staffing, can they not find staff, or are their top developers getting recruited away? If I'm in healthcare, are they losing their nurses to travelers, or are the travelers, they're dealing with having people struggling to come in because they can't pay enough, or the local housing is not where it needs to be. So you need to understand the problems so that your messaging can be talking about how your staffing company can address those problems. And your why right now is, I love this analogy. You don't, if you need to drill a hole in the wall because you want to hang a picture, you can go to Home Depot and you can buy a drill bit. You can buy a hammer and a nail. You can't buy a hole. But what you really wanted was the hole.
Right.
Staffing is the hammer and the nail. It's the drill bit. But you have to figure out what's the hole your client wants, exactly what you were talking about. Right. Usually existing clients can give you those answers, and then you use that to make assumptions about prospects that they have similar challenges to get them with that AIDA model to want to talk to you. So that's my long answer. I could go on that one all day.
I know you can. I've heard it in consulting class.